Have you ever wondered how pros seem to know where everybody is on the field? Let's talk about that. Hi, my name's Steven Peterson. I play for Utah Bro Army in the National X-Ball League. This is the third video in the How to Think Like a Pro Guide series, and if you haven't seen the other two, I highly recommend that you check those out right after this. In this video, we'll talk about various audio and visual cues that are usually available to you in an average game. Picking up on these audio and visual cues will greatly improve your field awareness and help you identify where your teammates and opponents are. I'm sure I won't cover every single audio and visual cue in this video, so if you have others that I didn't cover, I'd love to know down in the comments below. Let's get started. As I've said many times before on this channel, competitive paintball at the highest level is a game about decisions. Those who make the best decisions consistently are those that win tournaments. For us to be making the best decisions, we have to be processing and receiving all of the information that is available to us. Generally speaking, players in every division are processing what is happening directly in front of them, whether that's seeing their opponents make a move or whether that's a stream of paint coming their way. But where good players separate themselves from average ones comes down to their ability to perceive details outside of what's directly in front of them, and thereby make decisions based off of those perceptions. And great players perceive an even smaller subset of those details. Let's take a look at a few examples of some cues that are available to you if you're paying attention, starting with audio cues. As I've said before, even though you can't often see your opponents directly, you can get a good sense of where they're at if you're paying attention to the following. Number one, where you hear paint hitting your bunker or other bunkers and how loud that sound is. For example, the louder the sound, the closer your opponent is to you. Number two, where you hear marker fire, which does include your teammates. Number three, anytime you hear a referee shouting out. Number four, where you hear your teammates' voices on the field. And number five, where you hear your opponents shouting or what you hear them shouting. Or in other words, how far away they are from you and if they were the only ones that could have seen you make a particular move. For example, let's look at the Sunshine State Major layout. If you remember, there's a can in the center of the field and a tower just in front of that. If you make the move from the can to the tower within the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point, the only people who can really see you make that move are the Dorito 1 and the God Bunker on the snake side of the field, at least within the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point. This means that when you get to that tower, if you hear somebody shouting a bunker call that you have reasonable certainty is the one that you're in, and you can tell which side of the field it's coming from, you can generally assume which guy that is, either the God or the Dorito 1. This is a single example of how this particular principle can be applied, but trust me when I say that this does apply to lots of different scenarios and layouts. Also note that the absence of sound can tell you sometimes just as much as the presence of sound. For example, if you haven't heard any marker fire on the Dorito side for the last 30 seconds or so, there's really only one of two situations that are happening. Either one, you eliminated both Dorito players and you didn't know it, or two, you eliminated one Dorito player and the other one is left hiding. It's not very common for both Dorito players to drop their guns and go quiet, so that's the reason why you can assume there's at least one or you eliminated both. But given this information and whatever other information is being fed to you out on the field, you can then use this information to determine which example is much more likely. One other audio cue I failed to mention was the rattling of paint inside of a loader or a pod. This can sometimes give away your opponent's position and can also give you a clue as to if they're running you down and on which side they're running you down on. Now, let's look at some examples of visual cues that are available to you. These include bunkers moving, which, excluding any sort of weather conditions like wind, usually tells you that a player either just left their bunker or just dove into their bunker. Number two, pod piles and exaggerated reloads. For example, when somebody's behind their bunker and they toss their pod far away from them. Number three, the direction of paint in the air. So if you're looking inside the field and you see some cross shot coming in towards your teammates, you can usually figure out where your opponents are based on that. And number four, coupled with that, the direction of your teammates' paint, which if you're not sure what the body count is or where all the bodies are, you can use that information to kind of put things together. Number five, a very common one, especially in the later parts of the day, player shadows. You can usually figure out where people are if you just look at the shadows that are on the field. And number six, referee hand signals, whether the player is clean or if they're calling a player out, and which side of the field they're making those calls. Number 7, major and minor penalties. Paying attention to this information can help you keep track of the body count, especially when things get crazy. Number 8, referee paint checks. If you see a referee go over and actually do check a player, that can also give you an idea of where your opponents are at if you didn't know already. Number 9, the direction of paint hitting your bunker or your teammates' bunkers. Usually, if you pay attention to this information, you can figure out where you or your teammates are getting shot from, either from the snake side or the Dorito side, and how close your opponents are to you. Number 10, the direction your opponents are walking off the field. For example, if you're on the snake side of the field and you're looking on the inside and you see your opponent walking from left to right heading towards the pits, you can generally assume that you've eliminated somebody from the Dorito side of the field. Number 11, seeing specific teammates of yours walk off the field. So for example, when I see Sage Lee walk off the field, I know that we just lost our snake 1. And number 12, seeing your opponent's barrels or pod packs poking out slightly from their bunkers. Looking for this visual information can help you know which direction your opponents are facing, which in turn can help you move up the field safely and help you identify where your opponents are at. I'm sure there are other audio and visual cues that I didn't mention. This is why I'd be really curious to know down in the comments what things that you look for that helps you gain an advantage over your opponent. When we consider all of the audio and visual cues that are available to us, it's no wonder that pro players seemingly know where all of their opponents are at or what the kill count is. Please come back to this video, leave a comment down below, and let us know how this information has helped you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.